Congratulations to Harvey Elliott on the award and to the Gakpo family for their new arrival as well. How good were Liverpool today?
They were very good. I think certainly in the first half and in the first 20 minutes of the second half, I thought they were really good. They created a lot of chances, the big threats. They showed a lot of character today. They had to come out here and perform for the fans playing at home after the last results that they've had. So I think Mo Salah was hungry for goals. He wanted to prove a point. There was loads of players out there were hungry to show what they were capable of today, and they performed well.
Did they look like a team, Roy, that were playing with a real freedom this afternoon?
Yeah, I suppose so. We spoke about that before the game. The pressure's off now, which is not necessarily a good thing. You want to be under pressure because that means you're competing for the big prizes. But yeah, they put in a good performance. They scored 4, could have scored a lot more. The feel-good factor seemed to be around the place. A lot of energy amongst certainly the supporters. It was a good atmosphere, and obviously the players responded to that. And if you come and watch them again, they'd be disappointed with the 2 they conceded, but it was a game done. And they probably should have scored a few more.
Was it important that they ended the season well, Jamie? There's been so much disappointment about the fact that their title charge fell away in recent weeks.
Yeah, of course. You want to finish well. You want to do it for yourself, for the pride, for the fans and everybody concerned. I think what was difficult for them is when you watch Liverpool, you always feel they're going to score goals. But the last 6 games have been 3 goals where they haven't scored, which is just not like them because they make so many chances. And that has really been the difference. We think about the Crystal Palace game here where they couldn't score and there were load of chances, couldn't quite make it happen. But today they did play with real freedom. 4-0 up, they were so calm, so comfortable. And it just shows you in the Premier League, you made a couple of substitutions, you took off Endo. Bajcetic is a really talented young player, and you can see Jurgen Klopp talking to him about that defensive role that you have to fill. That's a vital part in any match, and they just lost their way a little bit, and it just got a little bit uncomfortable for them. But you know what they did? There were times today where they were just purring. It was an absolute joy to watch.
Just had to sharpen up, didn't they, to get over the line. Going back to the start, Mo Salah had a couple of nibbles, Daniel, before he managed to get himself on the score sheet. What's key to this?
I mean, for me, it's the timing of the run. Cody Gakpo, it's the rule of when the opposite winger comes inside, on the opposite side, you want to be lingering on the shoulder of the fullback. And I think the timing of the run was great. The ball, the weight of the cross from Gakpo was perfect. And, you can talk about, the goalkeeper and say whatever, should he have gone across the face and this and that, but in the end it was a nice finish and Mo will be delighted with that.
What's your view on the goalkeeper here, Roy?
I probably think he should do a bit better. I know it's close, but yeah.
Do you think the power catches him out a little bit?
Maybe, just maybe. And maybe he's overthinking it as he's thinking maybe he might be square in it. But yeah, maybe he could have done a touch.
You thought, Jamie, that might be something that Liverpool could take advantage. Emerson Royal playing in that position today.
He was just a banker. When you look at the game, you always look at individual matchups, and if with that one, he's not going to be able to live with him. He struggles as a right back, let alone putting him as a left back. His body position was all wrong. He just doesn't sense danger on the football pitch. And if you're a full-back and that's going to happen, you end up putting Skip there as a central midfield player. And if you're looking at the next few games, that's probably a better option because he just didn't want to defend. His body shape's all wrong. He doesn't check his shoulder. Everything that you should do as a fullback. We saw one very similar yesterday of Aït-Nouri with Gvardiol in the game with Wolves Man City. You've got to always be looking what's behind you, and he just doesn't, and that's rule number 1 when you're a fullback.
Do you think the second was the team at their best?
Yeah, I mean, and then they're playing well. Things are starting to happen, getting huge success with Salah. Gakpo was involved in everything. And they just looked like the team that was just on top of everything they were trying to do. That ball by McAllister breaks the line, and all of a sudden you've got that movement. He plays it. It's almost like a 1-2 there.
It's good first touch from Robertson, isn't it?
I mentioned the point at half-time, and I think when you think of Liverpool teams at their best, this is what they do. They get their full-backs in high positions. You can see Robertson, you can see, obviously, Trent Alexander-Arnold getting into the box. We've seen it time and time again, where they flood the box, they take risks, and they get their rewards.
It was a great touch, wasn't it, from Robbo, to be fair. And then, as you say, the finish, it's sort of, like Roy said earlier on, it is a striker's finish because you want to keep running in, not kind of... Those are the goals you want to score. A little rebound and it's open that you're thinking, yeah, thank you, nice goal for me. So I think he'd be very happy with that because he probably thinks he has a lot of opportunity sometimes. Robertson does as well, so sure he'll be happy that he's put one in the back of the net.
So Liverpool comfortable at half-time, leading by 2-0. We wondered if the Spurs fight back would come, but no, we saw Cody Gakpo stretch their lead. Talk us through this header, Daniel.
Well, yeah, firstly, there was this whole counter-pressing thing here. Emerson Royal doesn't see Harvey Elliott on the other side, and the cross is magnificent. And the leap to get up so early, to hang there, then to guide it into the corner. I mean, we're talking about high-level stuff. That's not your average header. That's a top draw header, that is, because to be able to get up there, hang up there, and then to direct it in with the right amount of pace, yeah, it's brilliant for
Timing, wasn't it? Good timing. Great timing.
And up against a really good defender in Romero.
Yeah, he's not bad, absolutely. And there's not great pace on the cross, but he's given him a chance. It was the timing. It's just the timing, just a glance. Beautiful.
How good
goal.
was his all-round play, Roy, do you think, today, Cody Gakpo?
Yeah, he done okay. This he was a handful, and again, we can be very critical of Spurs. We're talking about courage and conviction. They had none of that. But yeah, put credit to the Liverpool players and certainly the attacking players that took advantage of that.
I think for Cody, he showed glimpses at Liverpool. I remember, when I think back, his best game was probably against Manchester United, where they beat them last year, and I was like, well, he looks like a real player. But there hasn't been enough of those moments, and I think he sort of flip-flop between him and Núñez at times. He needs a sustained run of games. I think that will really help him. But there is definitely, he shows glimpses. I mean, as a forward, Daniel, where could he improve to make sure that he comes back next season as the number 9 or that he's the leading man?
I don't know if he is an out-and-out number 9 anyway. So again, like I said before, it's more about the role, what the manager wants. Him and Darwin are very different. So if you play one of them in a tactical system, it's because you're trying to win in a certain way. And I think with Cody, overall game, when he was at the World Cup with Holland, people were looking at him thinking, whoa, like, who is this guy scoring in nearly every game he played in the World Cup? And since then, he's come to Liverpool, shown flashes, but I think his improvement, or everything all round, really. I think, but also as an attacker, having confidence is what enables you to play at a level that maybe people don't expect you can do. And I think he needs confidence. He's not had a long run of games or...
But can he be more than a glimpses player, a player that plays in moments?
I think so, but it's about having a run of games consistently, knowing, having the trust of your teammates, all of those things matter. And I think sometimes when you're in and out and you might have a little injury here or there and you can't get the run going, I think for attackers, I don't know if it's different for midfielders in that sense.
Yeah, I think forwards obviously more confidence, but obviously with Arne Slot coming in, Dutch manager, does that maybe help him a little bit as well? You don't know what their the relationship is, and he obviously growing up he's playing his football in Holland, so it will be.
The key is like anything else. When you're playing for any big club, whatever position you're on the pitch, you've got to be consistent. You've got to be consistent. The manager's got to be able to trust you. And obviously, there's some players at Liverpool, the club's maybe lost that little bit of trust. But he might get it in the summer, obviously, with a new manager. You never know, different dynamics, new personalities. But if you want to be a top player at a top club, I always say it, you've got to turn up every week, and he doesn't quite do that at this moment in time.
What about the strike from Harvey Elliott?
Oh, nice. We're right behind this one. This is a beautiful strike, the player banging forward. And I think he really enjoyed playing in a deeper role today where he could come onto things like that. A little bit like what we see with Phil Foden at Manchester City, where you're playing wide, and of course he can be effective, but he wants to play here, he wants to be involved in things. Nice first touch, he just hits that, and he said he thought it was going over, but it was such a clean, beautiful strike, and he deserved it today. Got rightly man in the match. Yeah, look at that, top corner.
Can he do this more, Daniel? This is a beautiful angle of it, coming from a deeper position, if you like.
You know what? I had a chat with him a few weeks ago, and I said, bro, shoot more. And I'm not. This is obviously nothing to do with me, but
I think you're taking credit.
I think you can take it.
This is why I tried to protect myself by saying that, because I knew you'd say something.
Look at Klopp behind.
But you know what?
You know what? The only thing he hasn't done is done your celebration. That's what I was waiting for.
He did the one for him and his boy. I can't. I would try and do it now, but I think he needs
What did you say to him?
I think he needs to shoot more. He's got the ability to do that, and I think sometimes you shy away when you're a younger player, going into a squad with Mohamed Salah, Darwin Núñez, Diaz. You've got to set them up, and you sometimes think, oh, I shouldn't be shooting from distance or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's that responsibility.
It's not a great ball to him, was it? He had to kind of
No, the touch is brilliant. The finish is,
If that's what's
top
got you to this
stuff.
level, though, why would you stop doing that?
Because, as I said, as a young player, I think it is different. Coming into that first team, you've got to have that undeniable confidence within yourself. And guys like a Cole Palmer, when you see him play, you think, oh, he's got that. And Harvey needs to...
But this will help, won't it?
Yeah, this will
help.
And he's got this in his locker. Definitely. So I know he can do this more consistent. Maybe not this.
Do you see him in a future Liverpool team in midfield?
Absolutely.
As part of a midfield three?
Yeah, I think in this day and age, you want flexible players, ones that can play in midfield. You want to play him on the wing one game, okay, you move here. I think the flexibility of the player will enable him to play consistently, because he can play in the midfield, for a run of games, if you need him on the right or you need him on the left, whatever. And I think that is a strength to have as well. To be able to move positions is something that managers like, in my opinion.
Yeah, he'll watch that goal 500 times on Sky Sports News, won't he?
Yeah,
Winding it,
that.
stopping it. It's a great moment. It's one you'll never forget, scoring a goal like that in front of the Cop end. It was a beautiful moment.
But we did wonder if there was going to be an incredible comeback here on the cards. Richarlison, Jamie said, made the difference when he came on. How did he make that change, Roy?
Well, obviously the manager had to take a gamble, and obviously when you bring players on who are prepared to run in behind, then it gives you a chance. But Spurs, listen, lovely ball and nice and simple. Again, Liverpool are switching off a little bit. Lovely. Listen, it's certainly not an easy finish. He makes it look easy. Nice ball in, nice run. They got people running behind like Johnson, that bit of pace, and he's got a decent record there. So listen, lovely little finish, and listen, you felt the consolation at the time, but they managed to get a second.
There was 20 minutes left at that stage. And then it started to get a little nervy, Jamie.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course it does. There's still time. And he won't quite getting the people. People walking in the box. You see Trent there, not really getting any. You know, he's been so good for the rest of the game, but he doesn't quite do enough, you know, in terms of defending. And then you've got, all of a sudden, it's like there are a few nerves. And that's natural. It just shows you you're never really safe in the Premier League. If they get another moment, 4-3, it's a good finish.
Manager, isn't it? We make the point, same again against during the weekends, Chelsea and obviously Arsenal last week. It's easy to play when you're losing 2 or 3-0. It really is. Players want them. You need to show that courage when you're under real pressure. If it's 0-0 or you're still very much in the game, I think that'll frustrate the manager. You know, sometimes we sit here and we go, well, obviously they showed a bit of fight, but to me it was just.
And they conceded 4 against Newcastle as well. That's becoming a theme.
Previous to that, yeah, of course. So it's just. You want conviction in your play, and you want players to show that courage, and this team doesn't show that. Obviously, they had a good start to the season, but just recently, and these aren't easy games. But when everybody wants the ball, when you're 2 or 3-0 down, it's too little, too late, and I don't like to see that in teams.
And it's 4 straight defeats for Spurs for the first time in 20 years in the Premier League. Here is their captain, Heung-min Son, with Patrick Davison. There we go. 2 more post-match interviews to deliver for Jurgen Klopp. It wouldn't be human, though, if that emotion wasn't starting to bite. He's been here so long, almost 9 years. He's won everything in his time here, and he's just forged this incredible bond with the supporters through that time, not just through the football, but the way he's handled himself off the field as well, the way he's communicated, the way he's represented the red half of this city. And I suppose it's a rare thing, Roy, as well, that in football, you know, either as a manager or a player, you know when the end is coming. You don't really get to choose.
Yeah, which can be difficult. But I think if they can win the next couple of games, that'll make it a little bit easier. Again, I mentioned earlier, it's kind of a disappointing end of the season for him. But if you step back, and we have to do sometimes, look at the bigger picture, what he's done for this football club, then it is fantastic. We talk about the type of football he's played. It's been very entertaining. He's given young players a chance. They're back competing at the highest level. He's won some of the biggest prizes. He's also missed out. He's been close. So it's a proper, obviously, roller coaster for him. And he spoke about his emotions there, but I think one of his strengths is that he's an emotional guy. We see that on the sideline with him. We see him in his interviews. He's a very honest manager. He doesn't play. I don't think he plays too many games. He's not like this robot after games where he's almost just media trained. He seems a very honest manager, and I try and picture myself if I was a player. Back in the day, I think I'd like to play for this guy. I think that's the way I look at it. I think he's a world-class manager. He deserves a break because I think managing a big club is obviously very draining. So enjoy his break. He's been an amazing manager. I hope he does get a couple of decent results over the last few weeks. I can say that now because I know they're not going to win the league title. I might have been saying that a few weeks ago. But to leave on a bit of a high, they've won a trophy this year. They're back in the Champions League. It's not a complete kind of disaster for him in that sense, and enjoy your break, and I'm sure he'll be back at a big club next year and the year after.
It's interesting that the choice of words that he used to describe him as a manager being emotional, he's used those words himself this week, a manager that skills are about the emotion, the energy he puts into his performances on the sideline, the work he does in the training ground with the players as well, and it's delivered trophies, it's delivered every major honour for Liverpool in his time at the club. Are we going to miss him for more than this, though? Is it beyond Liverpool that it's going to be felt, Jamie, in terms of what he's brought to the Premier League, in terms of that personality, that charisma?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to be funny in, you know, your own language, let alone to come and be, you know, intelligent, funny in a foreign language. The guy is just a genius. In many respects, he's added so much to the game. like Roy says after a game, I think he calls it spot on. He's never insulted fans' intelligence. Of course, if you're not a Liverpool fan, he might have wound you up at times, but you still have the utmost respect for him because you love the way Liverpool played. There's always a high energy. They always give 100%. He treats his players extremely well, it seems. He doesn't tend to fall out with too many of them. They all want to play for them. You never hear murmurings of a player fall out. If it is, it's quashed very quickly, like Salah was.
That's why it was so rare last week, wasn't it?
But it didn't last long. He played him again, you know. And he's although I can imagine he's a big man, he's got maybe a big ego. That's never got in the way of what's the best for the team. Now, you talk about great managers in the Premier League. He's certainly up there with them, even in the world. I mean, his record is as good as anybody's. And he faced a juggernaut in Manchester City. It's been incredibly difficult in that respect because they'd have won a lot more trophies. But he will leave as an absolute legend, not just in his club, but as a Premier League legend as well.
They play to win. They play to win Liverpool every week. You know, we see a lot of managers, there's tactics and there's risks and pressure on these managers, of course. But every time you see him, he's out there to win games. He doesn't really park the bus. He's not that negative manager where he's thinking, we'll sit in. There's been times, of course, where they've had to do that when they're up against brilliant teams, whether it be Europe against Man City. But when he turns up, his mindset you can see, and that's reflected in the way the teams play, that high-risk football. Liverpool are there to win football matches.
Yeah. Danny, I think I was going to agree with what Roy's saying there because throughout my time, you know, at Liverpool with him, we never once went into a game thinking we couldn't win or there was a negative mindset on the approach. It was on the front foot. It was believing in your abilities, believing in the systems that, you know, the system that is set up for that game, the tactics we've done through the week. He'd make everyone be totally prepared and feel full of confidence going into football matches. And that is a huge strength of his. The personality that he's brought to the league, like you've said, the charisma, the connection with the fans, the relationship with the city, I think is unique, you know, in a sense, especially for a man who's come from Germany to come here and connect with the community and the team. And I don't know, it was a match made in heaven, clearly. And he'll be sorely missed.
Can I ask you a question? When he first came, do you remember any incredible speeches or anything that he said? Was there anything that made you stand? Did you think at that time this guy's going to be here for 8 years and absolutely change Liverpool Football Club again?
I think it was probably just hearing his voice on the training pitch, weirdly enough, like the way in which he used to give the messaging, it was like it resonated with everyone. And I think that's one thing that is difficult to do where the players literally buy into everything he's saying. It's hard to have the players like on the edge of their seat, like we're going to run for a brick wall for this guy.
And was there a bit of fear there as well, do you think?
I think so, for sure. But I think every top manager, I think it's teetering on the line of like fear and respect. You know, like having a bit of both, like a bit of fear of the manager, but you've got the utmost respect and he has the respect for you because I think in the end, it's like the players have to respect the boss. The boss needs to command the respect of the players. And if that goes out the window, I don't think there's much success that follows that. Yeah. So you've got to have control of the situation, and he's controlled this situation. We talked about the instance with Mo last week, completely forgotten about. A week later, Mo comes and performs well. The manager pushes it out. But it's just like everything's just flowing. And I think he'll be sorely missed. You know, the fans, the club, everyone will miss him.
The top managers challenge players, but it's also just keeping them on side. Fear, yeah, you've that anger, whatever, that emotion side of it, and you challenge the top players week in, week out. We just keep them on side. Just keep them on side. Don't lose them.
So what shape does he leave Liverpool in, Daniel?
Well, I mean, you know, we were talking about contracts, players. I think, firstly, the new manager will come in and probably take control of a team that was in a better position than what Jurgen had took over in. Of course, you know, from a personnel perspective, the team's in good shape. They've got a winning mentality, a team that's hungry to succeed. You know, great structure of a football club. But clearly there's going to be a manager that will want to come in, as we've seen at various different clubs, and want to buy players that fits into his system. And with the contracts and those types of things that are going to be running down, it's going to be a transitional phase, I would say. I don't know if it will be seamless.
Let's have a look at those.
How do you follow it? I mean, that's the thing, David. If you only got to look in history, you've got trying to follow Sir Alex Ferguson, trying to follow Arsene Wenger. It's been impossible, really. And even now, you look at how long it's taken for those clubs to transition and win, you know, titles since. And it's going to be the same with Jurgen Klopp. Now, the one that I guess he would never say it publicly, but if it is Arne Slot coming in, I'm sure he thinks to himself, I'm really pleased they've not won 3 or 4 trophies this year.
Does that make it harder?
Absolutely. It makes it marginally easier, just a little bit. Not a lot, but it makes it just a little bit easier for you to come in here and transition and hopefully get the players in. The one thing is, when you look at the contract situation, there are players that have got, like obviously Trent and Virgil van Dijk, they've only got a year left of their contract. The conversations will be going on with him and saying, right, who do you want to keep? Now, I can only imagine Thiago will be obviously leaving, maybe going somewhere else. Joe Matip with injuries, obviously had a great career here. The main one is your captain, Virgil van Dijk. What are you going to do with him? That's a really key one. He'll obviously have respect for him as a player. And Mo Salah, I think, I wouldn't be surprised if Mo Salah goes in the summer. I can see that now. He's 32 in June. I wouldn't be surprised if, and I think with Liverpool maybe getting the right money, and they're not going to say they're going to sell him, but I could just see, he looked like he was going to go last year. Trent, 25 years of age. What do you think about that one, Daniel?
That's a tough one, because I think all the top clubs around Europe are going to be sniffing, and then you've got Liverpool, who I think they've got to do everything in their power to get him to sign on the dotted line, because you can't lose a man of Trent's, he's from the city, we're talking guys like Stevie G and Jamie Carragher who have represented one club, and I think that's what you kind of want for Trent, I think. And I think if they lost him, I think, of course, Mo and Verge, they're guys that, they've brought in, they've been absolutely world-class for the football club. But the local lad in Trent who's become a superstar at the football club, he's the one that you want to make sure...
You don't want to be letting them leave for free. That's the key. You have to make sure you get some kind of fee for players. If you speak to him and say, look, I'm not going to sign a contract in the summer, then you have to cash in.
Roy, if you were the manager coming in now, would you be fighting to keep Virgil van Dijk and Mo Salah beyond the 18 months they have left?
Yeah, you would try, but obviously a new manager's got to get into the building and get a feel for the group of players. Salah's an interesting one, because, again, sometimes a player might say, listen, I've had my time here, I want a new challenge. But, of course, the key is getting your top players signed up, and you can't be letting them walk out the door and they're free. But there'll be lots of changes. New manager, new staff coming in. There's obviously been changes at board level. Who's going to be making the decisions? So it's certainly a big summer coming up for Liverpool Football Club, without a doubt.
We've spoken so much about how well Liverpool's been run. I'm actually amazed that so many of those players have sort of got to a year left of their contract. Especially, you look at Trent, who's only 25.
The players are in control of that, Jamie.
Yeah.
The players are in control. Maybe they have been approached by the club over the last few months, but some players say, I'll wait till the summer, and the agents, they play all these games.
Not rarely you get to 1 year, though, is it?
Well, but it happens. But the players are in control of that. It's not up to Liverpool. The players will decide when they're going to sit down and discuss contracts, or if they're going to stay on. Players are in total control, particularly when you get to last year. They're in total control of the situation, not Liverpool, so it'll be up to the players.
End of an era, but there are some big decisions ahead, clearly, for those behind the scene. What do we make of that interview from Ange Postecoglou there this evening?
No, I still think he's probably frustrated. He's obviously had a dig at the players over the last few weeks, so I think today he's probably thinking, he'll go easy on them. But he still must be disappointed with, again, the goals they've conceded. Yeah, a little bit of fight back at the end. But I think he'll be glad to get to the end of the season. Again, on reflection, he'll probably think, listen, it's been a decent season. When you think of it, it's his first season at the club. They lost Keane. And he'll want to get players into the club over the next, as long as it depends how long he's at the club, over the next 2 transfer windows. That's what most managers do. They look at the players, they'll think he's up to it, and they'll move players around. You just hope he gets the backing, obviously, at the club. And that's always another kind of different discussion with Spurs. What kind of money they're going to spend, which players they're going to go after, and I'm sure there'll be a couple leave. I think that's just a normal progression of any club, and particularly when a manager is one season into the club, he'll want to make changes.
They had such a good start to life under Ange Postecoglou. It was record-breaking. Unbeaten in the first 10, he won 8 of those games. But then the last 25 have them in the bottom half of the table. I think 11th in terms of the points they've taken over that period. Did the first 10 games actually create a problem for Ange Postecoglou for the second half of the season, Daniel?
I don't know if it created a problem. I think the players took to the philosophy quite quickly, and I think over the course of the season, maybe teams are probably figuring different ways to beat them or to get results against them. I think listening to the manager's interview there, he was saying that, basically some of these players are going to be part of the journey, and, it took Liverpool a certain amount of time to get to the place where they won a title, and I think he's looking at that for maybe them too, and saying that, look, the team I've got now and the style of play I want to do, I need a certain type of player to fit into that. And I'm not saying that a large portion of the players he has now aren't going to be part of it, but it's clear that he's probably identified certain areas in the team that he wants to improve that can kind of help him implement his style. And I think in a transitional phase at a football club when a new manager comes in, and there are glimmers of amazing times, which is what they've shown this season, I think that there is hope next season for them that they can be successful, because they've shown this year they can be a very good team.
They were going down one path, Jamie. They've gone in with Postecoglou, and it feels like he's a manager they've given a lot of power to in terms of the way he wants to recruit and the style that he obviously wants to play. He said repeatedly, we need change. Change has to happen. So do Spurs almost need to embrace this now rather than question the direction of travel?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure you'll ever get they relinquish who they're going to buy. I don't think you ever get that kind of control at the top. I just don't think that happens there. But in terms of, for him, there's been real positives. There has. At the start of the year, it was excellent. And I remember they beat Aston Villa away 4-0, and I was like, wow, this side there's certainties to get in the top four now. The following week, they lost to Fulham 3-0, and they completely fell apart. And if you look at this period since, the last few games, they've gone to Newcastle 4-0 down, Arsenal 3-0 down, today 4-0 down. That's not sustainable. That's not good enough. That can't happen at this level, because you're just going to keep getting chinned. Next year, what happens with in terms of the players they want to buy? Roy touched on it there, and he's right. Spurs are never going to be in the market. When you look at Arsenal, when they knew what they needed in the summer. Let's get a Declan Rice in. Let's really have a right go. That's what they do. Whereas I think with Spurs, that will never be the case, and it's always going to be a bit more difficult. So Ange, to a certain extent, is going to find that hard. He has to make sure, because there's been certain things when he's spoken about set pieces, and he sort of said set pieces aren't really a big part of the game. Of course they are. They're the details that define matches, of late. And there's been a few other things that have gone against him, for a little while. But I still believe that he's obviously a good manager for the club, but he's got to make sure he starts well next year.
If we looked at the comparison of his early time, Postecoglou's first 35 games, with that of Jurgen Klopp, with Mikel Arteta, who obviously had to do a lot of work as well, he actually fares very well. In fact, better than either of them from that first 35 games. That's the wider context, Roy, of what we're talking about.
Yeah, but I suppose we're just, rightly or wrongly for us, we're just probably reflecting on the last 3, 4, 5 games. But yeah, when you think when he came in at the start of the season, there was big challenges for him. He was new to the Premier League. There was question marks over him of the CV, I suppose, which is very, very unfair. And he's had a pretty decent season. But it's just over the last few games where they fell away, and you start analysing Spurs and the perception of Spurs is again, there's always a softness to him. And he's got to try and change all that. Because again, I think come the summer, when he looks back and thinks, listen, there's some positives there, but to get to the next level, which is always a challenge for any manager, when you finish 5th or 6th, that next step, competing or getting the Champions League, is going to be the hardest step. But give the man a chance.
It's going to take time. Roy, thank you. Daniel, thank you very much. Jamie, thank you very much as well.